What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the poker vlog. It is Wednesday, August the 9th, I believe, and it's about 5:30 in the evening. We're just having a little bit of iced coffee here, the refreshing iced coffee, before we go get in a session at Resorts World. We're going to jump into the 1-3 streets and see if we can't run it up. Took a few days off of poker. Last session I played was on Saturday, and I played at Mandalay Bay. First time playing at Mandalay Bay. It's a small poker room, but I have to say the action there was pretty good. A lot of tourists, people in for conventions, and pretty good action at the poker table. So for that session, I was in the game for 300 and I ended up cashing out for 583, I believe. So a profit of $283. So we won a little bit of our losses back. Hopefully we can continue that trend today. So that's the plan. We're going to go hit up Resorts World, jump into those 1-3 streets, and see if we can't run it up. I will see you all at the table. Getting things started on Wednesday night, we pick up pocket queens in the big blind. We've got a couple of limpers in the pot, early position limper and a middle position limper. The button and the small blind both decide to fold. I'm going to raise this up. I make it $19 to go. I want to charge the limpers here, and the early position limper goes ahead and folds. But the middle position limper decides that $19 is a good price. They put in the call. So we're going to go heads up here to a flop, which comes down pretty good for our hand. Queen, Jack, 5, all diamonds. I am going to go ahead and fire out here. I make it $20 to go here on this flop. The middle position player thinks for a moment and decides $20 is too expensive to continue. They release their cards, and we're going to take down this first pot to start the night. This time we are in the small blind and we pick up 9-8 of diamonds. We've got a limper in the cutoff. I decide to raise this up to $15. The big blind decides to put in the call, and the limper in the cutoff puts in the call as well. So we're going to go 3 ways here to a flop. Flop comes down 10-7-4 rainbow, giving us an open-ended straight draw. I'm going to continue firing on this. I think this is a great board for us to semi-bluff on. I make it $20 to go. Big blind doesn't think too long before going ahead and releasing their cards. Cutoff gives it a little bit of thought here. I'm thinking they might have a 10 or a 7 when they give it this amount of thought, but they decide to let their cards go, and we take down that pot. All right, this time we are in position. We have Jack of clubs, 10 of hearts in the cutoff. It folds around to us. I make it $12 to go. The button decides to go ahead and release their cards. The small blind decides to put in the call. The big blind thinks over his options here for quite a while before settling on just putting in the call. So we're going to go 3 ways here to a flop, which gives us top pair. We see 10-7-3 with 2 clubs. The small blind checks, the big blind checks. I want to be firing here for value with our top pair. I make it $15 to go. The small blind gets out of the way. The big blind now decides to put in the check raise, making it $50 on top. All right, when the big blind check raises us here, I have him on a range of ace-x of clubs, hands like king, queen of clubs, queen, jack of clubs. Pretty much a lot of the club draws, I think, are in his range here. I got the sense that he wanted to 3-bet us pre-flop and elected on just calling. So I think a lot of those Broadway holdings, suited Broadway holdings, are in his range here. He could also certainly have sets of 7s and sets of 3s in this spot, and he could be raising for protection. So based on that range, I think our top pair here is actually pretty good to continue, and we should just call. However, that is not what we do in the moment. And the question I have to ask you in the audience is, am I a nit here? I ultimately decide to let my hand go in this spot. I end up folding top pair. All right, we've got another big pair in the big blind. This time it's the pocket jacks, the fish hooks, couple of limpers in the pot as usual. Button decides to go ahead and get out of the way. The small blind decides the $3 price is not enough, and they go ahead and just raise this up to $16. That is not going to stand. We're going to be 3-betting this for value. I end up settling on a price of $50 to go. I wanted to make it a little bit larger with some of the limpers in the pot. Both the limpers get out of the way, and unfortunately the small blind decides to fold as well, so we don't get any value here. This ends up being an interesting spot on the turn. I pick up ace queen offsuit on the button, and it folds around to us. I go ahead and make this $12 to go. The small blind decides to go ahead and put in the $12 call. The big blind decides to go ahead and put in the $12 call as well. So we're going to go 3 ways here to a flop. Flop comes down ace, deuce, 9, rainbow, giving us top pair with a good kicker. When both opponents check it to us, I go ahead and fire out for $15 here. Small blind goes ahead and puts in the call. The big blind decides $15 is not a good price, and they go ahead and release their cards. So we're going to go heads up to a turn, which is the 8 of diamonds. Doesn't change too much. When the small blind checks here, I'm going to continue betting for value. I think we rate to have the best hand very often. I make it 30, and he very, very nervously re-raises to 65. And with this raise and the manner that he did it, I immediately had a read that he was strong. And indeed, he turns over pocket 9s when we snap fold. I had to go with my read. I think it's a bit of a nitty fold, but my read was spot on. This next one, we've got 5 limpers who enter the pot in front of us. And we look down at ace, queen of clubs in the cutoff. Certainly going to be raising this. We have 40% of a royal flush. I make it $20 to go, and apparently that sizing is too small. We get one of the limpers to fold, but the other 4 limpers go ahead and put in the $20 call. So we're going to end up going 5 ways to a flop. I don't know what the right sizing is here pre-flop. I guess I should have made it $30 to go to try to isolate one caller. But as played, we're getting 4 callers, and we see a flop of ace, jack, 4 with 2 clubs. If you're going to go 5 ways to a flop, this is the flop you want to see. Checks over to us. I'm going to go ahead and bet this. Could make a case for checking here, but I decide to put in a $45 continuation bet. And I don't know what the heck these players are calling with pre-flop, but one by one, they all put their cards into the muck. So we aren't going to get any resistance here, nor are we going to get any value, but we're going to take down a $145 pot. Again, I don't know what these players are calling with. I don't know the right pre-flop sizing, but we do win this pot. This time we've got big slick. We are on the button and we pick up ace of clubs, king of spades. $6 straddle, under the gun straddle is on. We get a couple of limpers that call the $6. I make it $20 to go here, and it folds around to the player who is in middle position, who goes ahead and puts in the additional money. And we see the hijack, who also limped in with the $6 call, put in the additional money as well. So we're going to go 3 ways here to a flop. Flop comes down pretty good for our hand, I would say. We see top pair, top kicker on a king 5-4 board with 2 clubs. We've got some club draws, we've got some straight draws, so when both players check it to us, I am going to go ahead and continuation bet here, and I'm going to size up a little bit. I go to $40, a little more than half pot sizing. The middle position player decides to quickly fold. The hijack player thinks for a little bit here, but decides $40 is too much. So So we're going to go ahead and take down that pot. That's going to do it for our night here at Resorts World on Wednesday. We've got more hands coming up here for our night on Friday night. Stay tuned for that.
All right, everybody, so we just finished up our session. We're getting out of the parking garage here. It's about 11 o'clock at night. We played for about 4.5 hours or so. And we're down $60, which, you know, I can live with that, $60. At one point we were down about 150, and we crawled our way back. We were about unstuck. We were about even, and then we lost a little bit back. And that was that. But the episode is not over. We're gonna come back and get after it again tomorrow, and I'm gonna record that session as well, so don't go anywhere because we're not done yet. So I'm trying to get out of this parking garage. Let me show you what I'm up against here right now. It's some event just got out. I'm not exactly quite sure what it was. Must have been concert or something. So we are stuck here in quite the line in the parking garage. But what are you gonna do? It's not the end of the world, right? I mean, we'll get out of here eventually. I do not know how this big, huge truck in front of me fit in this place, but apparently they did. So yeah, that was the session for tonight. Not a lot of crazy big hands, just a lot of kind of straightforward poker. I still think I'm playing too tight. I need to do some work on my ranges in different positions. But yeah, I think I'm V-pipping like around 18%. And I need to be V-pipping more like around 22 to 25%. I think I'm just playing too tight. And I think I'm folding too tight on the flop in certain spots where people can have flush draws, straight draws, and I have like middle pair, bottom pair. I think I'm folding too often, and they're probably able to exploit me because I'm folding too much. So yeah, I need to work on those spots. So that's something that I'm thinking about doing a lot of studying on. But I think that's going to do it for this night. Stay tuned for tomorrow night. Don't go anywhere. All right, so it's Friday, August 11th. We are back at Resorts World. Just parked the car, getting ready to head in to the poker room. This is going to be night 2 of this vlog. We played on Wednesday night. I was going to come back and play last night, but I decided to stay home and do some editing for the vlog. And I felt a bit tired, so it wasn't the best night to go play poker. But I'm definitely feeling spry tonight, or this afternoon, if you will. It's about 5 o'clock in the evening right now. So we're going to get in a session. I'm going to try to play till probably 1 or 2 in the morning, so it's going to be a long one. Buckle up. Hopefully we get into some good hands and we get some big pots for you. So stay tuned. Night 2, vlog number 15. I will see you at the table.
All right, we have been at the table for about 10 minutes. We're in the big blind and we pick up the first playable hand, pocket tens. We have an early position limper who puts in the $3 call and it folds over to the cutoff who raises to 15. That gets everyone else out of the way, so it's back over to us. I think we have a pretty obvious 3-bet candidate here. Cutoff is going to have a pretty wide raising range. So I go ahead and make it $45 to go. Want to start off taking the more aggressive line. The limper gets out of the way and it's back over to the cutoff, who quickly inquires about how much more it is. We clarify it's $30 more to call. He goes ahead and puts in the $30. We're going to go heads up here to a flop. Flop gives us an overpair, so we see pretty safe board here. It comes down 5-4 deuce rainbow. I think we can continue firing here for value. I think we rate to have the best hand. He's going to have some pocket pairs, but he's also going to have a lot of missed Broadway type holdings. So I make it $50 to go. He pretty quickly calls the $50 bet, and we are going to go to a turn here. The turn, I feel like, is better for our range than it is for his range. We see the queen of clubs. I think we should keep firing here. We can continue to represent aces. We can represent kings. We can represent queens. So I think it's a mistake here when I check. The player doesn't think too long here after I check, and they pounce on the weakness. They bet $100 into this pot. And now I'm in a really bad spot. I don't know where I'm at in the hand. So I decide to go ahead and let my tens go here, and the cutoff takes down this pot. All right, in this hand, we pick up one of everyone's favorite non-paired hands. Not ace-king, but ace-queen offsuit. We've got a limper under the gun. I go ahead and decide to raise this up to $12 and try to isolate this limper, and it works. It ends up folding around to the limper, so we're going to end up going heads up here to a flop. So for once, our isolation raise pre-flop does the job, and we get to see a flop heads up. And the flop comes down pretty good for our hand, I would say. We see ace, jack, 5. The under the gun player checks it over to us. I make it $15 to go, and they quickly go ahead and call the $15. So we're going to a turn card here, which is the 4 of spades. Doesn't change too much, although it puts a backdoor straight draw out there. He checks again. I think we have a clear value bet here on the turn, and I make it $30 to go, about a half pot size bet. This gets the player out of the way, so we go ahead and take down that pot. Just the pre-flop action on this one. It was a 3-bet pot. We 3-bet it to $50 with ace-king offsuit. Flop came down 9-6-4 all spades. It checked around. Now we're on the turn, which is the 2 of clubs, and the small blind leads out for $50 on this turn. I am contemplating either a jam or a fold here. We've got about a $300 effective stack in this spot. So I have the king of spades, plus I have an over, but I decide to go ahead and let my cards go here. In the cutoff, we have Jeff Boski. For those of you who aren't familiar with Jeff, he is a very popular YouTube vlogger who mostly does tournament poker, but we got the pleasure of playing with him on Friday night here in this cash game. He goes ahead and puts in that $50 call. We see the queen of clubs on the river. The small blind does not slow down, however. They put in a $65 bet here on the river. It's a very small bet considering the size of the pot. So when Boski thinks over his option, it's not surprising here that he goes ahead and finds a call. He's getting pretty good odds to go ahead and call and bluff catch in this spot. So he goes ahead and sticks in that $65, and his pocket threes are going to take down this pot. Got ace-king again, this time ace-king of diamonds, and again I missed the pre-flop action. I raised it up to 12. Our friend Rob 3-bet us pre-flop, and we called. We went to a flop of queen 3-4 with 2 diamonds. I checked. Rob bet 35 on the flop, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and put in the call here. We could be raising, but I think calling is also perfectly fine considering we have 2 overs and the nut flush draw. Turn gives us that nut flush. When we see the deuce of diamonds, I quickly check. Rob goes ahead and checks it back here. We see a pretty safe card on the river. It comes out the 4 of hearts. So we decide to go ahead and fire here for value and make it $40 to go. Pretty small bet here on this river, giving him a great price. It does look very value heavy though. Rob weighs his options over. Not sure if he has 2 pair, if he has a hand like ace 4, or if he has a hand like ace 5, he's probably not going to be able to get away from it, but he does lay his cards down after tapping them on the table. So not sure what he had there, but we go ahead and win this one. Okay, we've got ace queen offsuit yet again. We raise it up to $12 under the gun, and it ends up folding around to the button, who is none other than Jeff Boski. So we are going to end up going heads up here, vlogger versus vlogger in this spot. We've got tournament vlogger versus cash game vlogger. For those of you, again, who don't know, check out Jeff's channel. He is a really great vlogger. He's got a great channel. I enjoy it very much. Jeff, it was a pleasure playing with you. I hope we get to meet again on the felt sometime soon. This flop comes down Jack 6-9 with 2 spades. I check. Jeff checks it pretty quickly. We go to a turn card, which is the 10 of spades, giving us a lot of powerful draw options here. So I make it $15 to go. Jeff pretty much snap folds, and we go ahead and win this one. Title this hand Rob's Revenge. We are on the button with pocket 9s. We've got 1 limper in the pot. I raise it up to $12. Rob puts in the call in the small blind. The limper does call as well, but they're going to get out of the way pretty quickly here on the flop, so they don't really play a huge factor in this pot. We see a flop that comes down 8-6-6, giving us an overpair and 2-pair. So Rob checks, the limper checks. I decide to check back here as well, and we go to a turn of the 5 of spades. Rob now decides to put on some pressure, and he bets out $15. Limper gets out of the way. I think we have a clear call. So we put in the $15, and we see the 4 of spades on the river. When Rob decides to keep the aggression on here on this river card, this puts us in a little bit of a troubling spot. So he goes ahead and fires out a bet of $35 here on the river. I think he can have hands like 8-6 suited. He can have hands like 7-6 suited. He can have some pocket pairs in his hands like 10s. He might call with jacks, although I think he's 3-betting that hand more often than not. He could also have a lot of missed hands too, like king highs and ace highs. I decide to fold. Unfortunately, Rob told me later that he bluffed us. Last hand of the night, we look down at ace jack off suit in the cutoff. We've got an early position limper and under the gun limp, and the hijack decides to go ahead and raise this up to $16. I think we have a pretty good hand that plays well in position here, so I just flick in the $16 call. I think we could be 3-betting here some of the time, but I think it also plays fine in position, so I put in the $16. Under the gun calls the $16 as well, so we're going to end up going 3 ways here to a flop of jack, deuce, deuce, giving us top pair, top kicker. The under the gun player checks, hijack player decides to check here as well. I go ahead and put in the check, so we're going to go 3 ways here to a turn, which is pretty much a blank, doesn't change anything. We see the 4 of spades peel off here on the turn. Now the under the gun limper decides to fire out for $25. The hijack just decides to call the $25. When he calls here, I'm putting the hijack on a pocket pair like 9s or 10s that they just don't want to get rid of. So we go to the 6 of clubs on the river. Seems like a pretty safe card. The under the gun player now slows down and checks, but the hijack fires out for $50 on this river. A little confused now as to what he might be holding. He might have those pocket pairs that I mentioned earlier, but he may have slow played a big overpair. I put in the $50. I'm curious here. And unfortunately, when the under the gun player folds, he turns over 2 red kings, and we lose this pot to end the night. All right, after the session, Rob and I go out for a drink at a speakeasy called Hello Kitty Kitty. If you haven't been there in Resorts World, highly recommend you check it out. They do have a drink minimum, but it is a really cool atmosphere, really cool vibe. All right, that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the vlog, please do hit that like button. hit the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future episodes. For this session, actually these 2 sessions, we were down $280 total. So booked a little bit of a loss, but that's okay. I think we can get it back. So stay tuned for future episodes. Thank you all so much for the support and for watching and leaving all the comments and all the feedback on the hands that I play. Love every one of those comments and all of your support. I will see you in the next episode. Until then, be well and good luck at the tables.